Olódùmarè, ìbáṣe Ògúnmìlà, ìbáṣe àwọ̀ àkọ́dá, ìbáṣe àṣẹ̀dá, ìbáṣe Èdùgbọ́nà mẹ́fà, ìbáṣe àgbọ̀ngbọ̀n ọba ilé Ifẹ̀, ìbáṣe àdábàlótú Ifẹ̀, ìbáṣe olókun, ìbáṣe Olásà, ìbáṣe ajé Ògún Olóṣó Olàmbá èyí ayé, ìbáṣe ìta mẹ́rìndínlógún, ìbáṣe Orúnòkò, ìbáṣe Òkúnnòkò, ìbáṣe Òkìtì àwọ̀ òkò, ìbáṣe Ògún ìmàlẹ̀ èdèdù, ìbáṣe bàbá, ìbáṣe yèyé, ìbáṣe orí, ìbáṣe tótótó, Olódùmarè ìmọ̀jùbà. Kíbá mi èsì òrùnjùbà, àṣẹ, 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 àṣẹ.
But the true essence of magical or occult phenomenon is the creation of an ego, the creation of an identity, but an identity that will hold and maintain through lifetimes. The all in all is a spiritual and unseen subcontext that lies beneath all of reality. That is the all. And that within itself is mental. The greatest thing you can do in this moment is to be aware that these events are happening and to start digging into your creative mind as to where you can begin to assist. So these are not theories and thoughts and ideas that have been developed within me overnight, nor are they theories, thoughts, and ideas that have been developed inside of a vacuum, but they've been tried until the real current out of the desert of the mind. Because your mind can only perceive what is real, but you have yet to actually. So if the universe is mental, then can the universe learn something? Certainly.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings, and welcome to another episode of Foundational Friday on Enlightenment and Transformation. As always, I am your conductor, Yuya Assaan-ANU, affectionately known as Chief Yuya. And I am presenting to you a body of information that I think is very important at this time. And the reason I say that because we're coming to the close of our Gregorian financial year, depending on where your quarter begins and ends. But certainly for many people coming into that January season, many people consider that to be the start of things. So, of course, as we did last year, I will be doing an end-of-the-year reading. But for right now, I'm going to be doing a reading, or I have done a reading, and I will share some of it with you for this month. And it's very interesting. I spoke about this a little bit yesterday in Thunderground Thursday. If you haven't checked out that show, I will urge you to do so because it will probably give you some insight on what we're going to be talking about in this show. Of course, as I always put out there, feel free to call in. The call-in number is 347-945-7680. 347-945-7680. And if you want to speak, comment, question, whatever, just press the number 1 on your phone. I know some people had reached out to me sharing that they had called in, but was unaware of how to actually initiate a dialogue. So once you hit the number 1, I see that you are willing or proposing to speak, and then I can bring you in. Okay? So again, that number is 347-945-7680. So one of the things that I do as far as just being a curator in my shrine, the Yuya Assaan-ANU, because it's so much more than just a school. One of the things that I do is not only certain levels of rituals and ceremony every day, every dawning, pretty much kind of roll out of bed into the shrine, but also monthly there's certain work that I do for not only for some of the students, for my home, for my loved ones, and also for people who are part of our monthly services program. So what's entwined in that is not just the offerings and the ebos that I do on people's behalves, but I also do a reading, a perspective reading for the individual person for the month, as well as for the Elay and those who are connected for the month, just to kind of give people an idea of what to expect for the coming month, or maybe a little direction on how they should maneuver and navigate the terrain of their lives for the coming 30 days. So normally I don't share that publicly, but because we're coming down to the end of the year, and end of the year meaning, well, end of the Gregorian year, of course, again, I have to specify that. But because we're coming to that, you know, a lot of people just want to see where they are. A lot of the readings I've been doing as of late, probably for the past month, people have been calling and wanting to, okay, you know, what should I do this year coming? I've been getting a lot of those, and that's cool, you know, to ask those type of questions and just try to get a bead on, you know, how you should be moving, and if maybe some of the readings that you received previously, if you did what you were supposed to do with them, you know, and it's good to get those little checkups. But like I always say to people, and I'll say it this evening, I am definitely an advocate of people cultivating their own intuition. For me, it's certainly not about trying to figure out how many readings I can get off, you know, or anything like that. The readings are more of a charitable work than anything else that I do. And I say that to say I know some people sometimes can be addicted to readings, where they're getting readings every week. You know, I've had people who've done that, and you want to be careful with that, because you don't want to use your reader or your counselor or your guide as a crutch and as a substitute for your own intuition. Okay, and also, if you're getting effective readings, you should be given things to do, and those things to do may take you longer than a week to actually fulfill, and not just fulfill, to witness and observe the results of them. That's the important part there. You got to give yourself that time. Okay, so I'm just going to share a little bit of what came up for this month, because I thought it was interesting, and again, being the end of the year, I feel it's information that people can use for December. I want to reiterate again, this is not the yearly reading for 2015. This is just how we are now preparing and winding down coming into 2015, some of the things that we need to be mindful of, okay? And again, the call-in number, I see some people have already called in. It's already, the number is 347-945-7680, 347-945-7680. And if you want to speak, just press the number 1 on your phone, okay? So let's get into it a little bit, all right? And I'm going to just make a broad assumption and assume that most people by now know what a spiritual reading is. Maybe you've already gotten one. It could be by me, could be by someone else, right? But you know that it's just like any other type of consultation, except you're speaking to a different component. So it's like getting a bodily checkup, or you can get a checkup, or even on your fish tank. You know, it doesn't have to be you, your person. But we're looking into things that maybe cannot be seen right immediately with the naked eye, you see. So this coming year, this coming month, as I spoke about last night in Thunderground Thursday, is typified by the idea of charity. Okay, so I dropped some hints on that yesterday. This is going to be a very interesting month for a lot of people, and the reason being, what I spoke about yesterday in terms of charity was giving, you know, and I defined what charity is. I gave a perspective on that, and understanding that charity is not just donating money, okay, but charity is in the fact sharing your emotions. Charity is a transmission of passion. When you're able to transmit your passion, transmit your happiness, transmit your peace, and take a portion of it and give it to someone else, or take a portion of your time ration, which is probably the most sacred one, because that's the one you can't get back. You know, those are acts of charity. So certainly you can give $500,000 to your favorite charity, but if you're not actually sharing the emotional aspect, in effect, if your heart is not in it, then you haven't actually perform the act of charity. So again, I advise you listen to that show. I don't want to get into that too much, that particular segment, but I think we got into it pretty well last night. But this one, I shared that, but it's a little different from what some of you may be thinking. This month we're dealing with the sacred Odu of Ikafun, and Ikafun in this, and I know that may not make sense to some of you listening. You may not be familiar with Odu. Don't worry about it. I'm going to explain it. But this particular reading or casting for this month, it deals with money. It deals with prosperity. This is a prosperity. I'm sorry, not Ikafun, Otura Fun. But this deals with money and prosperity. Okay, so it's a really good Odu for the end of the year, because really what this deals with is coming to a place of rulership. Now, the rulership is typified by one's ability to receive emotions. So you see that there's a bidirectional charitable activity here. Most of the time we think about charity, we think about someone asking us for something that we have to give, something that we have to offer. This one is a little different for this. It is your ability to receive the charitable offerings of others. Don't get me wrong, it's also giving, but more importantly, to receive the emotional charity of others that will increase the flow of money into your life. So, just to be clear, for anyone who's listening who may not totally understand what that means, sometimes you'll be in a situation with someone where they're trying to connect with you in a certain way, or they're trying to share something that they're excited about with you. And you may have certain walls up because you don't want to be vulnerable. Maybe you've been hurt before. Maybe you're just afraid to be hurt, or maybe you're just not as in touch with your feelings. And this coming month, those situations are going to be coming up. And your ability to receive those feelings from people, which is the charity, your ability to receive that charity will actually align and parallel itself with your ability to receive money and prosperity. Okay? So the charity in this month is going to work in a different direction, where certainly this is the month where we do give. Don't get me wrong, so we're not excluding that from the formula, but this is a month where we learn to receive, which is just as important. Sometimes we get into a place, especially those of us who consider ourselves to be community of spiritual warriors, where we're giving so much and so often that we don't know what it feels like to receive anymore. We don't know what it feels like to be serviced. And we feel very awkward with that feeling. We feel like we got to do something. And sometimes that's just the egos, making us feel like we got to always one-up someone else. Someone does for something for us, so we got to go do something for them. So at least that way we can turn around and say, well, you didn't do anything for me because I did this for you too. We helped each other, that type of thing. So it is that ability to receive that becomes critical, and this is what makes a person a ruler in this time. The ruler allows him or herself to be emotionally open. Okay? That's a form of vulnerability, because you think about it, in most instances a ruler is asked or demanded or needed to serve as judge over a situation or sector of society, of people's affairs, right? And in being a judge, you know that there's going to be a large amount of people who are going to be lying to you. They're going to present things to you that are false. They're going to bear false witnesses against other people. And you certainly could just become a stone wall. And when people come out, no, I don't trust anybody. But it is your ability to clear that and to be vulnerable in the moment, which not only, and I've said this many times, signifies the mark of a warrior, but in this particular energy phase that we're going through in this time, it signifies the mark of a ruler. The mark of royalty is the ability to be vulnerable in this time. Okay? Counsel for this month is to give charity, to be charitable, but also in giving you're also receiving, because you're allowing someone to receive the fortune that comes from them giving. You're not blocking that for them. So you're actually giving them a gift by receiving their gift, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense to you all. So there are some energies that are also very strong this month, in particular 4 energies. Okay, and I'm going to tell you how, where, and why. Somewhat, I'm going to tell you. Okay, the 4 energies that are strong this month are Ogun, okay, Obatala, Oya. Okay, actually, just keep it with those 3 for right now. With the 14 men, I totally understand when I break it down. Okay, so now Ogun, aligns itself with the ideas of fire and iron. Now, if any of you have picked up listening copy of Altar and Shrine, in that book I get into properties of metal and I get into properties of fire, and you can see how those two would interact. Obviously, metal is a conduit for the heat of fire. Okay, metal can also be used to contain fire as well. Okay, but this particular aspect of Ogun is the Alada Meji aspect, which means twin machete, Alada Meji. Okay, and what that regenerative and creative powers, because with one machete, Ogun cuts a road, and with another machete, he cultivates a farm. Okay, so it's that dual aspect of culture and innovation together that's going to be key in this month. Culture and innovation simultaneously, being expressed and implemented simultaneously. So, just so you know, also Ogun is the energy of Aries for my zodiacal people who are listening. That particular energy is going to be strong in this time. Now, we also spoke about Obatala, okay, and in this form, Odu, we get heavy into the element of oxygen. With Obatala, we get heavy into the element of oxygen and air, of course. I know a lot of times when we talk about Obatala, we don't really speak about the air aspect. We say that, sometimes for Shango or for Oya, but that is one of Obatala's elements, because it part of it touches the earth, but it doesn't really touch the earth. Okay, so it is that ability to not be affected by things. So it's kind of it's a very difficult balance, because this is a month where we are learning and we are practicing on our ability to be emotionally open, but at the same time, we are now allowing ourselves to be totally corrupted and enveloped in the emotions of the body. This is where we pull a batala in for. The air also represents lucidity. Lucidity just being the clearness of thinking, the clearness of your path and your way. That's one of the reasons why Ogun is so strong. Ogun hates insanity, and that is why he's cultivating and clearing at the same time with 2 hands. So you can also look at that as your mental state, clearing the mental blockages while at the same time cultivating a more powerful mind. Okay? And the other energy that I said that was strong was Oya. Now, Oya in this month is particularly going to speak to the women. Women coming into their power and into their strength, but doing it in a way where the change is very swift. Okay? The change will be very swift for you. Because, Oya is a quick energy. Oya is aggressive. When you want something to happen quickly, that's one of the Oya and Ogun. That should be your go-to, folks, for things to happen very quickly and swiftly. But Oya, of course, also deals with womanism. And I know it seems like I always have to say this disclaimer. I feel like I always have to, but it's important. Sometimes you got to keep drilling things in people's heads. There was a stark difference between feminism and womanism. Okay, you would never hear me, at least I think, maybe I'll contradict myself next year. That would be great. But this year, and all the years behind me, you've never heard me and won't hear me speak about any avocation or advocacy of, that is not a part of this culture. Womanism is, however. Okay? So when we speak about women coming into their strength and power, it doesn't mean because she becomes independent of her community or independent of her natural mate. That's not what we're speaking about here. In fact, it's critical for the woman now to embrace the masculine principle to come into her energy and power. One of the reasons why Ogun is so present in this particular month that's coming. Okay? And also when we see the symbol of the machete, like I said, it represents regenerative and creative powers. Well, if you think about it, that's exactly what the Jed represents. The Jed, as we know, in Kemetic culture, or also which was also called the Tekken Nu. The Tekken Nu or the Jed, this was symbolized by the male penis. Okay, penis. All right, not penis. Okay, so another aspect that we need to be mindful of in this month is the twins. Now, you heard me did a show some time ago on the Ibeje. Okay, it was a good while ago, so I'm not really sure when. I think I might have also spoke about the Marasa in that particular show. But yeah, so here in this month, we're going to be dealing with the principles and the concepts of duality. And more important, the war councils that we set up inside of our own heads. You know, those images of the demon on one side and the angel on another. Okay, that's what we're going to be dealing with in this month. We're going to be dealing with that duality where we're okay with being torn on some things. We're okay with going one way or wanting to go one way on the left and wanting to go another way on the right. That also means a couple of things. This is a month where we need to be mindful of the possibility of betrayal by those who we believe that we're partnered with but are looking a different way than we are. So, especially coming into this new year, Gregorian year, this is a time where we want to really firm up the visions that we have with people, the visions that we've made assumptions about being collective visions. Or we both feel this way, right? You know, a lot of relationships end that way, and people suffer, the most heinous heartache because they never really did a check with their partner to make sure that they were sharing the same vision, that it was a collective vision. You know, it's something I deal with so much in counseling, and it's very sad when people come to that realization because it might have been years, 10, 15 years, where they're just assuming that we're both feeling this way about this and never really did a check, okay? And so this is the time this month where you want to start doing those checks. Part of also that emotional vulnerability that I spoke about earlier, being emotionally vulnerable enough to hear what you do not want to hear, to possibly hear the divergent opinion and perspective of your partner, and be okay with that. You know, keep in mind, especially when you have the energy of the Ibeje, of course they are twins, but when you look at it within a family, sometimes we look at our mates as our twin souls, or our twin flames, and things like that, and that's good, that's cool, but they're not your family. They're not related to you. They're not your blood brother. I mean, they might be. I mean, I know somebody whose parents were cousins, you know. But usually that's frowned upon, and you're probably not related to your mate. Okay, so that means several things. But one of the things it means is that you don't know that individual as well as your fantasy, your romantic fantasy tells you. So you never want to assume that someone does not have the potential, the ability, or the right, the divine right to change, or to change their mind, or to have their own perspective. And you have to make a determination if you can still embrace and love them despite. Okay? So part of that, Alade Meji of Ogun, the clearing and the cultivation is the clearing and the cultivation of a proper and healthy ego as well. Okay? And believe it or not, all of the things that I just mentioned in this month will be directly responsible for the influx of finances into our lives. All of the things I just mentioned. Because this is a month of prosperity. This is a month right now where we're dealing with money. We're dealing with financial things. But it is our prosperity that is strengthened and brought in by our willingness to accept the flow of emotional currency, Now, what is emotion? Emotion is electricity, right? Because it's electricity in motion, or energy in motion. I've spoken on this one before. So our desire, our ability, our potential to receive electricity into our magnetic body will strengthen our ability to receive the currency of wealth and prosperity into our auric body. Okay? And this is going to come with us being able to be vulnerable, being willing to be vulnerable, being willing to be corrected, being willing to be checked, being willing to hear certain new information and new data that we may not necessarily agree with about our partners or about anyone who we're partnering with, about our family members. Okay? So that's the energy of December that I want you to look towards and think about and meditate on. All right? And I'm going to keep this segment short because you got some work you got to go do. Right? You have some work on. You should be doing. You should be thinking about now, okay, am I emotionally open? Am I emotionally vulnerable? Have I put myself in that healthy place? You see, am I really understanding and manifesting that energy of Ogun, Obatala, and Oya in my space right now? Okay, and keep in mind that when you're dealing with Oya and Obatala, you're dealing with energies of air. Of course, Oya is a water energy. Okay, she's a river, in fact. But when you're dealing with those three energies, you're dealing with a certain coolness. But it's like a duality because Oya is water, so that's cool, but she's also considered a pupa energy, which is a hot energy or red hot energy, as well as Ogun is also pupa. And Obatala is funfun. Funfun meaning cool energy. Okay, so you see a very interesting combination because metal can be cool, but it can also be hot. So it is again that twin flame or that twin duality that we're dealing with, where we're kind of going back and forth between our activation and our coolness. Okay, and again, that's the movement of emotion and the receiving of emotion. This is a month of emotion and how emotion is connected to wealth. All right, so that has been our Foundational Friday. I told you it's going to be short and sweet. And be sure to tune in this Sunday for Chief Speaks right here on Enlightenment and Transformation. The call-in for Chief Speaks is 347-945-7680. And we'll be on at 11 Eastern. Chief Speaks call-in show. All right, until next time, peace, family.